It's the beginning of the show. Do we have anyone? We have one viewer. Yes. One viewer says, that means it's time to go. Let's do this thing. What's up, everybody? What's going on? It is Monday. Monday. Why do I have the camera set to so close? Oh, there we go. Camera 1, camera 2. What's my hair doing? My hair's doing weird stuff. It's like casting a weird shadow here at the beginning of the show. I guess I'll just have to get used to that. I didn't shave today, so feel free to tell me all about it in the comments. I didn't shave today because I didn't feel like it. So we got a little weird from yesterday. But it has been a busy little jam-packed kind of Monday here. So let me bust my chat open here so I can say what's up to a couple of the people that were early. Alyssa Bentley, Michael Sarr, James Leiser, The Fish Tank Barn, Frank Dominguez, Sopaloco 55, Pugimus Maximus, Rumbust is going to sleep. Oh no, it's late out there in Sweden, right? Yes. It's late out there, and I'm sure it's been dark forever because it's already starting to get dark here at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Pretty soon, about a month from now, it'll probably be like dark now, this time of day. And we'll be like, the long winter. Oh. But it's getting dark already. Pugimus Maximus was asking, can we get the surprises ringtone one day? I imagine that somebody might be able to put that ringtone together if that's something that they want to do. You could probably go through some of the old episodes on this channel and find it and make a ringtone. It is not on my to-do list. My to-do list is pretty hearty at this point. It's pretty long, and it literally just got longer right before the show started. We shall have to get out our blade because we have to do a bit of an unboxing here. Now, you guys know I loves my plants and I loves my shrimps. The panda, what are they? What's wrong with my brain right now? Total brain fart. The shadow pandas that I got just slowly dwindled and never really got to breeding and stuff for, who knows what the reasoning is. It just happens sometimes. Didn't really matter what I did to that system to try and balance things exactly how the shrimp wanted it. It just they just didn't enjoy it. Most of them just kind of got old and didn't breed and passed away. So that's life sometimes when you're trying to breed things that are air quote hard or difficult. Sometimes you swing and you miss, but that doesn't mean that you're done for. So today we are trying a new distributor of shrimps, and I think the only thing I did here, let me double check. So the only thing I did here was take the shipping label off of the top so that I wouldn't have my shipping address to the public, right? I think we're good. This just looks like a priority box, right? Yeah. People seen a priority box before. Let me go ahead and cut the top open. I was going to put an overhead cam in here, and then I realized I just didn't have time for any of that because I didn't expect this box to show up today. It was supposed to apparently show up, last week, but the update is that it was going to show up tomorrow, and then United States Postal Service brought it here. So let me make sure there's no extra shipping label or anything like that. But we got a little newspaper. What do we got here? What's the newspaper? We've got some insurance company. It's an ad. And I'm not sure what this is. This people getting excited for, I don't know, some weird newspaper. So got some shrimps in here. And they are alive, so that is good. Everybody looking to be pretty perky in there, right? Shipped in a little bag, little something for them to hold on to. They're probably pretty cold at this point, but we got ourselves some new shrimps, and they all look sort of, I would say, like on the older end of juvenile. So that is typically a good sign. This is pretty much the shrimp you want to get in. When you want to get shrimp in, you don't want real little ones, and you really don't want shipped in a bunch of big older ones. You know, for what I was kind of talking about before was that a lot of the shadow pandas I got in were a little long in the tooth, but that's not really a thing that I was talking about here. This is really what you want. You want these older adolescents so that they'll have a good amount of time to adapt to your tank, grow, and start breeding. So these are actually really cool. These are those like they're spotted pintos, I believe, is what they're marketed as. Let me see what they're. Let me check my email real quick and double check my notes and make sure that I've ordered / got the right thing. Because, yeah, I think most people know when you're out there, like, thinking about ordering some shrimp or ordering some fish, you look at about a million things. So these literally showed up, like, 5 minutes before the show started. So how prepared am I? Not super prepped. Let me, all right, there's my, the spotted pintos. So these are the red spotted pintos. So I wanted to make sure I get those, I say the correct street name. These are Caradinas, some really cool shrimp, and we shall see. I'll obviously do a putting them in the tank video and stuff like that. I don't know when that'll be out, but you know, hey, there's a little unboxing of what it looks like when I get a box in the mail. I don't know, people seem to get excited for that, and I'm excited for the shrimp. So, hey, I figured I'd share it with you guys on a Monday just to explain how these Mondays go. Yeah. So the funny thing is like this little bag of shrimps right here is basically like $120 worth of shrimp. I'm gonna have to check and see if we got the right amount in here. It looks like 20. I ordered 20 of them, so I mean it might be 20. It might be not. But spotted pintos are not the easiest thing to get at any kind of store, so I normally have to order that kind of stuff in. There just isn't that many stores that actually carry something that specific, a Caradina like that. So, you know, got some in. Hopefully we'll get them breeding over the next 3 to 6 months, and we'll see where we go from there, you know. But I really do want to get back into Caradina shrimp and taking care of them and breeding them and that kind of stuff. Though, like I said, the last batch that I got in was kind of a swing and a miss, and really for unknown reasons. I didn't have any disease or anything like that going on. They just never really took off very well in that tank. But I have tested the tank, and the water is good for pintos. You know, the shadow pandas, maybe not, but I've tested the water on numerous occasions, and we should be pretty good. So I'm excited for that, and hopefully you guys are excited for that. It's Monday, so we got to do the advertising thing because it's Monday. I want you all to just take a minute and just listen to my stupid ad read for a second here. It's not much of an ad read, but we'll run through it real quick. I shall paste it right here in the live chat. It's the Patreon page. The Patreon is the main way how we are able to fund making videos, documenting this stuff, bringing in new things like some shrimp so that we can hopefully, you know, share that experience with you guys and let you know, like, maybe, hey, here's a spot where you might want to get some shrimp or something like that. I paid with those with my own money. Those actually I just bought with my own money, not show production money, because the show production money has been going to the Netherlands trip and that kind of stuff. But I would love if you guys take a chance to spin over to the Patreon page, see what's up. We do have a bit of a community there. We cover people that share to Patreon. And let me see if I can't... let me see if I just got the notification that I'm live. Let's see, 13 minutes after we've been live. Yeah. Where we go? hold on a second. Where am I? Push buttons. Click buttons over here. People wonder where you can get notifications of what's going on and that kind of stuff. We actually utilize let me go add source, screen capture, smart selection. So it looks a little something like this. And I have to turn off the exclusive window capture. There we go. It looks a little something like this. We get people sharing stuff on there. We get some good posts from people. Like here's a good example from John. Preston John, like Bond. From Preston, who's the guy who breeds the Congo puffers, a.k.a. the Scootin' Fruities, the Scoutadeni puffers. So he'll post some stuff up on there, like these Celestial Pearl Danios, a.k.a. Galaxy Rasboras, whatever you want to call them. He's breeding those and stuff now. Rumbust, we talked about this post, which I literally did some of this today, which will be in the video a little bit later. But the Patreon is a great spot. It'll also link you to the Discord and send you along. You can be as little as $1 a day if this is something that you want to do. It's pretty, or not $1 a day, $1 a month. It's a monthly charge, so it'll come up on the 1st. And and you can always change it. You could always go from $1 to $3, or from $3 to $1, or whatever you all want to do. It's a great crowdsource, and it's separate from the YouTube. Now, I noticed that we lost some YouTube members today. And I think the reason for that is I released some new tiers because YouTube kept emailing me and emailing me and emailing me and emailing me and sending me emails and sending me notifications to add more tiers to my Patreon, or to the memberships on YouTube. So I did that today, and I probably pissed some people off because I had to put higher tiers in. Now, I'm not saying anybody has to sign up for those higher tiers. I just was getting super tired of YouTube sending me notifications to add more tiers, so I added them. And I figure, hey, if you're going to add more tiers, go crazy with it. Make them $50 and $100 a month. And who the hell knows what's going to happen with that? I don't know. But the standard membership on YouTube is $5 a month if that's something that you want to do and you don't want to go off platform, but you also want to help keeping the live shows and this kind of stuff going, like bringing in, Alyssa. Alyssa comes in once every 2 weeks on Fridays. We would love to up that frequency and be able to help pay for gas money and her time and my time and all that kind of stuff. So that's just what's up. There's the pitch. And then also our affiliate sponsor, if you want to spin by our affiliate sponsor, which is the Aquarium Co-op. If you guys don't know what the Aquarium Co-op is, you've probably been living under a rock, and you might want to get out from under that rock. There's a bit.ly link if you want to go over to Aquarium Co-op and buy all of the stuff from there. Feel free to do that if that's something you want to do. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to. It doesn't change the price. It doesn't do any of that kind of stuff. Blah, blah, blah. There's the end of the stupid ad read thing, and hopefully you all survived and didn't consider jumping off a cliff, because I did. I considered throwing myself into a volcano. I hate having to remind people that that we're still trying to have bigger goals. We're trying to continue going forward. I want to open a public space at some point that people can come to, that we could film a ton at, that we could live stream from. As you can tell, I'm down in my basement office down here. And someday we would love to be able to have a public space. I can't afford to do it out of pocket. I just can't. I mean, I wish that I was independently wealthy, but that doesn't really do nothing. It doesn't really do nothing if you just are trying to wish to be wealthy or whatever. If I was independently wealthy, I would have a giant aquarium that you all could come to, and that would have already happened. But I'm not. So, but we do have a short week this week. We have a weird week. We have Thanksgiving coming up, which Thanksgiving is going to be fairly uneventful. For me, we're just gonna go have dinner at family, right? So I don't think there's really much interesting there. We're gonna go have the stereotypical Thanksgiving dinner, say hi to family, do that kind of stuff. So I don't think that's too out of this world or weird or anything. So not really too much to talk about it. We're going to do our best to have a show on Friday. Right now, I do not know if we're going to have a Friday show or not. I thought I was thinking I was planning on doing that, but now I don't know, and I will have to talk to my spouse to see what's going on because I'm not sure what the heck is happening, if we're going to do a Friday show or not. I noticed people in the chat were talking about it. We do have a brand new member. Oh, my God, Allie Patton. Coming in as a brand new member. Well, thank you very much. It's been ages since we had a new member during the show. So, Allie, thank you very much. It's 100% appreciated. One of the regular shows that I listen to on YouTube has pointed something out that if you are a premium member, apparently there's a bunch of free super chats. You get free super chats up until November 29th, I guess. They're trying to compete with Amazon combining up with Twitch. So I guess if you are like me and have a premium account, you got free super chats from Google, right? So Google owns YouTube. They're giving out free super chats to people that are a premium member. So, I mean, I'm not saying you have to super chat me or anything, but be aware you got like 4 days to use them. You can just click the button down there on the chat, the little arrow thing, and then you can be like, I want to super chat my free super chats. Maybe you want to do that later on Bob's stream, or maybe you want to do that on like JH Aquatics stream. I see him in there. Maybe you want to do that on Bentley Pasco's stream or 54 Punchy's stream or whoever has that available. Maybe you want to do that there. I just want to throw that out there that there's free Google money on your account if you have a premium YouTube dealy bobber. Yeah. So, Allie, thank you very much for becoming a member. We're still short of our initial goal. We never did make that initial goal of hitting 100 members. We never did. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll just sit here and be silent until we hit the... That seems dumb. That seems dumb to me. But I saw JH there. He said, what's up, Makerspace for the win? I like that. It is for the win. I do hope to get that Makerspace going someday. I know that at some point we are going to move from the city. Yes, we're not in the middle of the city or anything crazy like that. We're out here a little bit, sort of suburbia-ish, but old school suburbia, if that kind of makes sense. Like this part of town that we live in was built over 100 years ago. So it's not really traditional suburbia. It's just like old houses. And at some point in time, we will just be leaving Western Washington and moving somewhere else to possibly get more property, have a little farm. I know that Vicky and I have some long-term goals of, building. One of the things we want to do is build some tiny homes. I don't know what the plans are 100% for that, but we do want to build some tiny homes as a sort of smaller charitable type thing that we kind of want to do to help build some communities. And I guess the way to relate it would be there are a lot of people now, maybe it's not a lot of people, but there are a number of people now that, it being the 21st century, a lot of people made the decision to like not have kids and not necessarily get married, or maybe they, as you guys know, I'm a guy in recovery. I've been sober now for, let me check my calendar so I can make sure we didn't get a reminder from Rumbus today. So where's my ding dang calendar gone? I've got these extra windows open. That's why. I don't know if you guys do this with Google, but I have like 900 windows open over here. So now I got to go through them. I don't know. It's over 2,000 days. Oh, there it is. There's my day. 2,022 days sober. So I do have a lot of contact with people in recovery, people that are sober now, and, they might have never had kids or anything like that. and we would like to be able to build tiny houses, hopefully for some people in recovery, hopefully for people that that realistically just made the decision to not have like a big family or anything like that, because we do have some, we know some people like that in our lives. Creedmoor is asking, Idaho bound. Idaho is kind of one of the places that we have certainly looked at. There are some really cool areas out in eastern Idaho. Western Idaho is just kind of a drag, but there's definitely some good spots there. Some places in Montana, Wyoming, and that, realistically, there are some areas out there that need some new blood. They need some new people moving there. We did have a good friend of ours that's been traveling the U.S. for the last 2 years. He was in town on Saturday. We made him dinner, had him over, and we had him here. And there's something that we were talking about is that the agriculture in the U.S. has definitely become seriously monocropped, seriously hands-off. There's a lot of singularly owned large companies that are utilizing hundreds of thousands of acres for a very small amount of people, because there's a lot of automation and monocrop and things like that going on in the U.S. So one of the things that we'd like to do is be able to, build some tiny homes, bring some people in, and be able to kind of bring some blood to these towns that have lost so many of the next generation. And if, some people have spoken to me about that, they're like, what do you mean they've lost the next generation? And one of the big issues is that if you think about a lot of the towns, and let's say we take specifically my one portion of my family. So let's say we take my father, right? He's 70. How old? He's 70 now, right? So he was in the Vietnam War. He was in the military. My father was in the Navy, and he was from Idaho. Well, he was originally from Utah, and then they moved to Idaho at some point in time when he was young. And then he was in the military, he was in the war, blah, 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 did all that stuff. But when he got out, where he was stationed was in Washington, which is like way out from where I live now. But he was stationed in Washington, in Oak Harbor. And instead of moving back to Idaho, he just stayed, right? And a lot of that happened throughout the U.S., right? That, people that were, 17, 18, 19, 20 could have been living out in these towns in like Idaho or something like that, and then moved to an area like the greater Puget Sound, Seattle area. And then they never went back because they met somebody here, they had kids, they had jobs, they had things going on, and they never moved back, thusly leaving people like my grandparents in a town that then all their kids had moved away, and all of the stuff that they had built up, let's say they were farmers. They aren't, but let's just say they were farmers or something like that. And then when it came time to retire, there was nobody to take the reins, so they end up selling it to the next farm over or whatever. And then eventually that just kept happening. And when somebody has bought 10 farms and they're turning around at the end of the year and going like, we have extra money, we're going to have to pay a bunch of taxes, or we could just buy 2 more farms that are unoccupied now, basically. They just kept doing that and eventually grow into this giant company. And then here's the real problem. When those real successful farms, when they came up to retirement time, I think all of us would like to think that we're going to be able to work till we're 80 or something. But the reality is that when those giant farms were built up, there was really no one to sell them to except for like a big corporation that had that kind of money. Because you think if somebody's got 60,000 acres where they're turning 3 crops, which they would do now. You know, you think 20 years ago they would just kept planting wheat and spraying more fertilizer on it. But let's say you're turning 3 crops, that property's probably worth, you know, so 60,000 acres, even at just like a modest price, is probably worth either $2.5 million upwards of $15 million, really depending on where it's at, how developed it is, that kind of stuff. And most people that are starting out, let's say you're 28 years old, you're in the prime of your life, you're ready to go start doing some farming. You don't have the money to buy that. And there ain't a bank in the world that's going to be like, yes, 26-year-old man, here's a $10 million loan. Go start your farm. It'll be fine, you know? So that has been an ongoing thing. And, you know, somebody that knows it better and more firsthand and makes a ton of YouTube videos about it is a guy named Joel Salatin. We have the same first name, different last name. So you could go and you could definitely listen to that guy. He's been in it for like 50 years. He was in the Vietnam War like my dad was. So, you know, that guy's like a great spot to look at possibly starting some little farms and stuff. And, you know, I've had enough points of contact with agriculture, meat farming, butchering, you know, selecting meat, all that, you know, all that kind of stuff that I really do think it would definitely be a boon for maybe not everybody in the U.S., but if you start to think about it, like, 2% of the U.S., right? 2% of the U.S.? That's like over 7 million people. So I feel like there's definitely a big enough audience for that kind of stuff, even if it's just the 2% of the population that's like, I at least would like to watch a video about these guys try to farm pigs, even though they might not be that great at it. So, yeah, we're definitely going to continue doing that kind of stuff. The whitewater rafting company is something that I know Vicky is like 100% sold on. I just, you know, one of the weird things is that, you know, my basic thing is I want to build and film stuff and then make, you know, shows like this and stuff. I just want to build stuff, build aquariums, build all this stuff. And you normally just get stuck, you know, in the fact where it's like, oh man, I can't afford that, you know? So, you know, for me, like getting those shrimp is a step into getting back into be able to fund more things, I guess. You know, if I can get back to being able to sell like 100 shrimp when 20 of them is $100, if I can start doing that again, that's just a helpful little helper, you know, and that kind of stuff. Darren Dobbins here. He says, our issues are drought because the next generation will need to leave for bigger cities to get jobs because there's nothing in farms unless you're in water damming rivers and selling water. Yes, Eastern Washington, there's a lot of companies coming from, there's a lot of companies coming in from these big corporations coming in, buying the water rights from a lot of people that are, you know, getting close to retirement age or anything like that out in Eastern Washington, which is a really big, it's a really big political thing that's going on right now that people are trying to at least obstruct some of these companies that are buying the water rights in Eastern Washington. Whereas if you do some research, you'll find out that the Columbia River Basin was, you know, a huge development that was done with taxpayer dollars to build the dams, to build all the irrigation and everything out there. And now these companies are coming in, buying the water rights from people that are starting, you know, they're getting later on, they're getting long in the tooth. You know, if you talk to a guy who's 78 years old and there's nobody to take the reins on his farm and somebody's saying, hey, we'll cut you a $300,000 check for your water rights just so that we can own your water rights. You can still use it until you're done, but we'll own your water rights. It ends up being pretty appealing to those guys. And it seems like, I don't know what the answer is personally, but there seems like there needs to be some kind of answer to stop that from happening, because Washington State will end up being in a stranglehold of like nobody owning water rights anymore. Oh, my phone is going bonkers. Who is this? Oh, it's Mr. Gillot. Gillette? Gillot. I don't know. He's sending me something ridiculous. I don't know. Okay. I'll put my phone back over there. Sorry. So where are we at? Guppy Guru, which part of Washington? I've got family in farming in Washington. It has gotten much harder for sure. Well, it's one of those things. Like, farm management is not the easiest thing in the world. And, you know, if you're not applied for the proper subsidies and things, it does get incredibly difficult. But you know, there's a lot out there right now that people could get. You could definitely get a lot of kind of assistance at this point. So, you know, I definitely would. I definitely would look into that if somebody is having some struggles or whatnot. There's definitely a lot of subsidies to kind of improve farming and stuff like that. And if you're somebody that's young, there are a lot of grants and things out there now to at least help with getting started. I don't think they come in with the aiding of buying property, though. That's going to be one of the caveats that is going to be a big obstruction for a lot of people. But if you do, you know, save up and buy some land, then at least some of those grants and subsidies could definitely help out with equipment and things like that. I've definitely looked into them a lot, and don't quote me on anything. I've looked into it a lot, and I'm not going to quote any numbers or anything like that. So that's what I mean. That there are a lot out there to get some stuff going. So it definitely is a possibility for a lot of people. And, you know, I think what's the parallel for my fish keeping and all that kind of stuff? It's going to be a lot of aquaponics, a lot of hydroponics, that you guys would be able to build small scale ones. I've actually started building one of the small scale ones that will be going into the fish room at some point in time. Once I'm able to get the reef tank out of the way. I haven't found a suitable a suitable person to take over the reef tank yet. I've also got some cameras for sale and some other stuff, and it's just kind of nonsense right now. But we'll see how things continue on as time gets going along here. But Eastern Washington is on the list of areas that we might end up looking into. Wes Barshinger says suicide and bankruptcy rates are at an all-time high for farmers. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest here. Suicide rates in the U.S. are at an all-time high. So that's an issue. Bankruptcy rates are pretty high right now, with a lot of businesses out there are not able to really handle stuff. There was a big story on the local news here that the local restaurants are super mad, basically, at the city, because the city is building roads. The city has voted in to have a $15 an hour minimum wage, which, by the way, that $15 an hour minimum wage didn't just go in like overnight. It has been scaling up. It scaled up. There was like a 5-year run up to getting to $15. So it started out at I think it was at $8.25, and then the next year went to $9.50. Then the next year went to $11.50. Then the next year it was $12.50. The next year was $13. Something, you know, they're out here acting like oh, my business is under so much strain because $15 an hour is too much to pay my workers. And from a guy who spent the better part of 20 years running restaurants and stuff like that, I have no sympathy for those people getting on the news claiming that their restaurant is going to fail because you have to pay your employees money. Right? The restaurant the restaurant industry is super cutthroat. you guys. It is not an industry you want to get into lightly. And I know a ton of restaurateurs that got into it like, yeah, I'm just going to make money. I'm going to get some people. I'm going to feed them, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And you're like, 87 to 84% of restaurants fail. In the United States, 84 to 87% of restaurants fail in the first 5 years, which means close the doors, go out of business, somebody's bankrupt. Oh, here it's only 85%. Oh, then in that same news story, 1,150 restaurants had opened, right? And 1,039 restaurants had closed and gone out of business, which, by the way, is right in that 84 to 87% failure rate. So it's not even any different than the rest of the country, even though we're paying more for our workers. And by the way, having been a guy that worked 100 hours a week, 120 hours a week, running a restaurant, being on call all the time, not only being a manager, but a guy who works on the line at the same time, who has to cover for dishwashers that are gone and this and that. And, being a guy who did that for years and years and years and years and years. And, I'm not blaming my drug and alcohol, problems on that. But it's a part of that society because you talk to people that are reliant off hopefully making tips from customers, or, a guy who works the fryer, you decide that he only gets to make $8 an hour because he only works the fryer and is poor, has to work 2 jobs. It's pretty easy for them to start self-medicating. They don't, I don't know about now, but they didn't provide health insurance. They don't provide really anything. There's no breaks. There's none of that stuff. I actually worked for a restaurant that wanted to start charging employees for the food that they ate because they would eat at work sometimes. And because it's a restaurant, they wanted to charge their employees, which here's the problem. If you're making food, you have to taste food, right? How do you know if there's enough salt in it? How do you know if there's enough sugar in it? How do you know if you've spiced this correctly? How do you know if this bread is good, right? Well, if somebody doesn't pay for the stuff that they're tasting, now they're a thief in the eyes of the owner, right? Because everyone has to pay for the food they eat. So then what they did is they decided to just charge all of the employees a base amount of money because they were eating food while at work. I'm going to tell you something. You want to piss some people off that make $7 an hour? Start charging them $15 a week because they are at work. It did not go over well, and was found to be, I think at least illegal somehow. I think it was illegal somehow. But, yeah, it's just kind of ridiculous stuff like that, because heaven forbid that a restaurateur would want to improve the restaurant or improve what it is that they're making so that they could get more customers and consistently have them come back. But no, we're going to charge the employees some of their paycheck because you ate a BLT on your break. Nuts. They were. I know restaurants have definitely charged their waitresses for their meals too, but they'll get them half price. I'll tell you this much: you got a bunch of waitresses that don't want to eat lunch because they had to pay half price for it. There's going to be 2 things that are going to happen there. You're either going to have really hungry waitresses, which is not. I don't know about you guys. If you're trying to take care of customers and you're super, super hungry, seems like something has got to give there. You might not have the greatest attitude in the world, or you're going to entice the kitchen staff to bribe the waitresses with free food. And I'll be brutally honest with you guys. If there's a lot of guys working in kitchens out there that are happy to give out some free steak and lobster to a waitress. You know, that's human nature, right? Human nature side of that. Got a starving waitress and give her some lobster, if you know what I'm saying. But we did get a new patron. I wanted to say thank you to William coming in, a brand new patron last night on the Patreon at 1:45 a.m. my time. I have no idea where William is, but man, if you were up in my time zone becoming a patron at 2 o'clock in the morning, I can't be super mad about that. But thank you very much. We also got a super chat from Preston John, who's I really hope to go to his house someday and film some of the puffer breeding and his fish room and stuff like that. I really hope to be doing that. I do have a fish room tour coming up very soon. I hope to have it edited for Thanksgiving. That's the day I'd like it to come out. But it looks a little, I don't know. I was editing it earlier today, got a little frustrated, worked on editing some other video, which is a Bucafe Alandra, the booses, how to glue them and how to do that. So I don't know. Yeah, I just editing all this stuff from the Netherlands. And to be honest with you guys, I keep ending up all kinds of like, this isn't good enough. So I just kind of end up going back to starting over. But I want you guys to know I have hours and hours and hours and hours of footage. So don't stress out. I'm not going to lose the footage. I mean, there was a lot of money that went into going over and filming in the Netherlands, and the last thing I want to do is put out something that I'm not enthusiastic about personally, because I can make fish room videos here at my place and put 3 or 4 or 5 hours into it, and I'm not that mad if the audio is a little screwed up, or I'm like, the coloring in that's kind of weird, or it's 15 minutes long and it should be 7. Like, I'm like, whatever, that's fine. That's not a big deal. It's just me sharing my experience. But I just feel like I'm trying to take a little bit of a more, air quote, professional move at those videos so that we didn't spend all that money, all that production money to go over there and have them put out some crappy videos, but they'll be coming out. I hope I can just drop like a video every day in December for like a week. It should be cool. That's my goal. So I don't know. Try to pull the who's that guy? Who's that? What's his name? David Dobrik or something like that. He does that. Like he'll drop like 10 videos all at the same time. Like, here's the documentary. Hopefully try to do something like that. Jessica Thiergardner, what's up, Jessica? Says, I'm lucky with the new owners that bought the practice. They gave me a $2 raise and recognized my skills. That is good to hear. Yeah, I mean, it really is. It really is good to see, people coming through. I see VB23. I think VB23 was asking about me doing more tutorials on easy plants. I have a lot of plant tutorials out there. Most of them are pretty, what I would consider easy plants. Today's video is actually a not so easy plant. So bear that in mind. Today's the Ludwigia Senegalensis is not the easiest plant in the world, and I will jump into explaining that when we go over to the video in just a second. I'm trying to catch up with the chat here. GRB Aquatics says, good day, Corvus and everyone. We in Australia are having big issues due to big businesses owning basically all of the water in our major river, the Murray-Darling River system, killing it. Very sad. That is a tragedy. I know that there is a big drought going in Australia right now. I think I was on somebody's live stream and they were talking about the drought last week. His name escapes me right now. Can't remember. But yeah, I hear there's a big drought going on down there, and yeah, it sucks. Big D Smoke says, "Yep, true for me, Allie Patton. That's what I like the most about Corey is how well he takes care of his employees. I worked in an industry that writes you off once you're hurt. Yeah, there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on in the U.S. That's for sure too. Washington is a right-to-work state, which sounds good when you say it, but the reality is that means a company can fire you for just cause. So you got to watch. Not all things in the world are great, even though they sound good. All right. Well, I think I'm caught up. I think my company made $46 million in profits, and the management came back and gave us a pizza party. It's very typical. At one point in time, I was running a kitchen. 54 Punji says, I think Dr. Black. Yes, it was Dr. Black. That's right. I knew the 66 was in there. I couldn't remember. But that's an adult-only stream, so just so people know. I think. I don't know. He swears a lot and was smoking and drinking and stuff, so I don't know. Let me see. What was it? Oh yeah, I worked for a company that was running a restaurant with like I think my crew was like all told 66 people, just running the kitchen, and that company was profiting over $3 million, or that restaurant by itself was profiting over $3 million a quarter, and I was making $12 an hour. I was getting salary $480 a week to work basically all the time. And after the first quarter went by, no worries. After 6 months, it was clear that this restaurant was going to work very well. And I said, hey, I think I deserve a raise at this point after 6 months. And they said, well, at the next review, we will go over that. So if you make through the next 3 months, we'll review that next time. So 3 months go by. I'm like, hey, I think I deserve a raise. And they said, well, next review will be your 1 year. We'll go over that then. And I was like, okay. So then the 1 year came, and I said, all right, we're at 1 year now. What is it that you want me to improve on as we're making money hand over fist? I think my labor cost was at 14%. So if anybody out there knows about labor cost, figure that out. My food cost was at 17%. And I was like, I feel like I deserve a raise. You can't get much better than that. That's like half of what normal costs should be. And they said, well, we're thinking that we're just going to wait till the next review about that. And obviously I'm paraphrasing a much longer meeting. This was like 4 hours of review / meeting / going over all the stuff. And I said, okay, there won't be another review because I'm going home. And it was one of those times where maybe not the best move in my life, but I definitely felt justified by it, that they were like, what do you mean you're going home? It's like, yeah, I'm just going to go home then. And I just got up and was like, it was good. It was good working with y'all. And I walked out the back door, got in my truck, and I drove home. And I think they thought I was joking. And they were just like, oh, maybe he's just going home for the day, I guess, or something. And then the next day, my phone was just ringing. And eventually I answered it, and they're like, where are you? I'm like, I told you yesterday I was going home. I don't work there anymore. And I found out that like half the kitchen walked out. Within the next couple of days, they were like, a bunch of people just were like, Oh, see you later. Yeah, no, I don't, so it's kind of interesting, but that was many years ago. It was like almost 20 years ago now. So, but where are we? Oh, it's time to go to the video. The video is brought to you by viewers like you guys. All the green names in the chat, thank you very much. And all the Patreonizers, thank you very much. That's how we're able to even film this stuff. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to work and make videos, Which, back off to work tomorrow. Got another 16-hour day tomorrow and Wednesday, and then free dinner, which is always good. Let's change the scene here. We'll go over to scene 4. Why is it not going? Oh, maybe it's scene 3. Oh, it is. It's scene 3. We were on scene 4. How'd they get inverted? That's really weird. Well, they got inverted. It's okay. We still got sound. We still got things going on. Everything's working right. Yes. Although I am like extra micro tiny, so this is how I end up getting zoomed in. I zoom myself in because I put myself in a corner, and nobody puts baby in a corner, right? Let's see here. All right. Okay. So first things first here in the 150-gallon aquascape. As you guys know, I've been kind of moving stuff around, making space, and just kind of doing things. And that's the beginning of the video here. I'm definitely making space as I kind of move plants, relocate them. They grow and fill in, and I don't want them to be 100% grown in together. We don't all want that. We don't want them all mashed together. We want some good, healthy spacing to allow them to grow, get enough light in, enough nutrients to the roots, and enough nutrients to everybody, so they're not all tangled up and causing a mess. So as you guys see right now, I'm removing some of the Rotala atra. Hurrah. I'm not really sure if you say hurrah or atra. It seems to be, some people say it one way, some people say it the other. And we might as well confuse the Google algorithm that's going to listen to the audio later anyhow, right? And say it 2 different ways. We're having to move that Rotala out of the way. I do have some crypts that are encroaching on my plan, so I'm pulling out some of those and getting things out of the way and sort of making space. The Rotala has definitely expanded in its geography. It's definitely spreading, sending up new shoots, getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. You'll see I remove quite a bit. Excuse me, I gotta have a drink of my coffee. Oh, that's nice. That's some nice coffee. But I am having to move a bunch of plants that are starting to grow together. You can see right there, I pulled one of those crypt Usteriana out of there. That I just love those crypts so much. They're so cool. Definitely a different crypt from what most people have, like all these little crypts down here. I am getting a little more into the Cryptocorini, the larger varietals. Which isn't a really easy task. It's not really a super easy task to get into the bigger Cryptocorini because they're not really available. Like, they're just difficult to come across. The Usteriana is definitely one of them, and that is kind of easier to find, so you definitely can locate that. You guys know I have been ordering some plants off of, like, Etsy and stuff like that because I've had to go to some... I've definitely had to go to some pretty specific people that are like, yes, I've got this plant. I did post a story onto YouTube, and I forget who I was asking if somebody could identify this plant, and I think it, like, literally the only comment was correct. Let me see. But that's one of the plants that I got that I am a little bit excited about. Let me see. Stories. This is like the hardest thing to access. Oop. So shout out to No It's Not That. says Rotella Ramesor, Florida. Yes, that is legit.
Who can identify it?
The only person to comment got it correct. So I guess it wasn't that difficult to get that one right. But I am happy to say that Bentley Pasco and I got some a while ago that's pretty clearly the red varietal. The one that I got recently is the purple one. So fingers crossed I'll be able to make a video about that in the next 3 to 4 weeks once it's grown and adapted. The thing was literally like $12 a stem or something like that. I forget how much it was. I put it on the credit card and just ignored my credit card bill. And so I got like four stems, I think, and I've strategically placed a couple of them here, a couple of them there, into different tanks just to make sure. Does this grow well here? Does this grow well there? What about this substrate? What about this CO2? You know, that kind of stuff. So, Terry's Tropical Tanks just asked, anyone ever used a Fritz glass and acrylic cleaner on their tanks? I haven't personally. I know Corey sells it and uses it, so I would assume it's fine. Let's see. The short version, a similar story. I saved a former employee. All right. Where was I at in my storytelling here? All right. Let's go back to... Sorry, I started reading the chat. Got totally distracted and forgot what I was talking about. But I definitely have been bringing in more and more rare plants just to get them in my tanks, see which tanks they're really going to grow in, which they aren't, to really give a comparison to you guys. That's one of the reasons I want to do the makerspace. So instead of having, 6 tanks like I do right now, be able to set up like 30 tanks and be able to do a lot of tests, side-by-side stuff, test lights, test substrates, this versus that, and have actual studies of that. And, as I got on the sidetracked earlier and started talking about farming and this and that and the other thing, at some point we will move to an area like that, and I will have a much larger shop. I don't know when that'll be. I don't know how many years that's going to take, but that will happen at some point. But as the same as my fish room here, it's not open to the public. You know what I mean? So that's never going to be an option if I move far away. Or if I have to build it on my own property, it's just never going to be an option that a bunch of people come to my house. It's not going to happen. And it's not about my safety. It's about my daughter and my spouse. That's the reality. Yeah. Because as long as they're living with me, I'm not having like 100 strangers come to my house. It's just not. That's not even. There's no way to vet all those people. You know what I mean? There's just no way to do that. There's also no way to like really get proper insurance for it either. Whereas a commercial space, we could actually have insurance in case somebody, falls down and hits their head or something randomly. Pardon me, a vape nash. I got some blueberry vape here. It's pretty good. Getting off the nicotine though, slowly but surely. I'm down to half the nicotine I was at before. So stepping my way down, and I think it's working out. Not perfectly, but it's working out. I will say this, having gotten off cigarettes over a year ago now, that was great. That was a great decision in my life. And for people to think, and I wanted to point this out, that for people to think that getting off cigarettes is because of nicotine, I would say that from my personal experience, and this is anecdotal, from my personal experience and a lot of other people I've talked to, it's more getting off of cigarettes than it is nicotine. Yes, nicotine is addictive, but most of the medical-based studies that I've looked at is that it's about as addictive as caffeine. So you think about if you ever quit coffee, that's about how hard it is to quit nicotine, which isn't that crazy. But the cigarettes, I'll tell you this much: there's a ton of other stuff in cigarettes that is keeping you hellaciously addicted. So consider that. Consider that if you're out there smoking cigarettes still. That at least you could be a nerd that's vaping for a while. My lung function is way better than it was a year ago. I have a lot more endurance. Obviously, people are like, you cough sometimes. Like, yeah, I cough way less than I used to, though. But my lung function's up. You know, I'm a little bit fatter, though. We'll give myself that. But that's just I don't work out as much as I used to. So August Vukosevic brings up a good point. Only 30 likes. We need 68 because that's how many people are watching. Hit the like button. Yeah. Hey, hit the like button, I guess. I think we're already past the $4 mark with Preston John's super chat and Allie Patton becoming a member. So we're past the $4 mark. So if you want to hit the like button, you can. I'm not really that worried about views anymore. I don't really base my mind around YouTube views. It just seems to be like a monumental waste of time because we got 255 people on Patreon, which if I had a fish club meeting and 255 people showed up, I would be zazzed. I would be insanely zazzed. We have like 70 people who are members on YouTube. I don't know how much overlay that is there, but let's say we have 300 people that are way into like what we're doing here and what the project is and stuff. I'm like, that's bitching to me. So, I think a lot of people out there are like, you got to get to 1 million subscribers and throw your morals in the garbage to do it. And I'm like, nah, man, nah. I'm sticking with my peeps. I'm sticking with my people. And we occasionally get a couple new people coming into the group, and they're like, hey, man, this is pretty chill, and I get to learn some stuff. And it's kind of fun. I laugh sometimes, and yeah, that's good enough for me. And I'm like, yeah, that's good enough for me too. I don't need to like smash any fish tanks or throw fish into a pond where it doesn't need to be. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. Ricardo said, "Oh, you just called me out on SIGs while I'm working on it." Yeah, just keep working on it, bro. Like, that's one thing I wanted to point out to people is that like it's the cigarettes. Like, there's a bunch of stuff in it that is making you be stuck there. And I tried the gum, and I think the gum was good for some people to quit smoking, but I started getting this terrible heartburn. It was just like kicking acid reflux, which I don't normally have that. I tried the patch, but the patch would give me like crazy dreams. And by the way, guys, I already have night terrors as it is. So I'd be like waking up in the middle of the night screaming like there's zombies eating my brains or something. I don't know what's going on. So, just kind of one of those crazy things. Zen Ginger says, I asked before, but wasn't sure. When I went to the membership page, do I get Discord benefits with YouTube membership or Discord only for Patreon? Discord, you get both. Either way, if you want access to the Discord, you can become a member on YouTube, and then via the community tab on my YouTube page, you can scroll down and you can find the link once you're a member that you can join Discord. Or if you become a member on Patreon, you will automatically get forwarded to Discord. Like, it'll give you the option that you get the benefit because Discord and Patreon are linked together. So, yeah, you could do either one. Either one of them will give you the same reward of coming over to Discord. That to me is a big part of the community. And that's kind of if people want that 24-hour access, like if you send me an email, chances are I will not get back to it. If you post on my Facebook page, there's chances I won't get back to it. But the Discord, I will get back to it at some point. So, we have a good group over there of like, let's see, last week we had 124. Now we have 127. So we're just like doing that slow growth over on the Discord. People asking questions, helping each other out, kind of going back and forth. Dennis posted some weird stuff earlier that he's getting from, what is that? What is it? Wish? What is that? The website is Wish. So, and by the way, Wish, like, I've seen some kind of cool fish tank stuff on Wish, but I think that website has just turned into like a cluster of like adult stuff being sold. So I don't know. It's kind of weird. And let's see. August Yukosevich is asking, how do you keep your plants so algae free? I have so many hair algae issues. This tank specifically right here does have a little bit of hair algae in it. From time to time. Hair algae almost always is an issue with low CO2. There are other issues that can bring up hair algae, but it's very rare that it would be one of those other ones. But typically low CO2 saturation is what's causing hair algae. Now, I'm basically pumping as much CO2 as I can into this tank, and I still get a little bit of hair algae. I use my toothbrush method. If you guys have watched some of my older videos, I've definitely given out the advice to get some toothbrushes for your aquarium because it's the easiest way to get rid of hair algae, green algae that can sometimes get into the cracks and corners, cleaning silicone. If you have glass tanks, the toothbrush is just so helpful. But CO2, low CO2 is generally the problem that will create some hair algae. Hair algae is really, really, well, I was about to say something, but let me take a step back and say every algae out there is basically just taking advantage of some kind of deficiency with the ecosystem. We see it as a bad thing, but in reality, the ecosystem sees it as a good thing because that's what's going to kind of bring the balance back, right? So that's how nature works essentially with freshwater and saltwater. It's a different process in saltwater than it is in freshwater, obviously, there's a lot more chemicals in salt water. So, but essentially the process is bringing the balance back and continuing the ecosystem, and that's where algae pops up. Now, hair algae specifically is typically from low CO2 saturation because that single cell replication that is that fine hair algae really does well when CO2 is low. That's just kind of the easy way to explain it. So I would look into, getting something that you could add to your aquarium to kind of bring those CO2 levels so that your plants can utilize more of the nutrients that are going on, that are free floating within your system. There's really nothing you can do to get rid of nutrients floating in your system. That's just going to happen. Even if you use RODI water, that's 100% filtered. As soon as you add it in with a piece of driftwood and some rocks and some substrate and that stuff, you add it in, it's going to get something leached into it. But so there's really no way to just go like, well, I'm only going to have root tabs. Water is, water does a great job of eroding things and it does really well with getting nutrients floating around in it, free floating. Most plants can pull from the water column regardless. There's some out there that can't, but I would keep that in mind. Oh my God, we have 2 new members today on a Monday. What are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do with ourselves, guys? We have 2 new members today. This is like the most successful live stream we've ever had, other than the ones that had more than 2 members. So I appreciate it. I appreciate it very much. Let's welcome the Zen Ginger to the membership squad, the membership squad. And I think Zen Ginger had asked me this before. Would I rather one or the other? I feel, or it doesn't matter to me which one you want to do. I only ever offered both because there was a lot of people that were like, I don't want to go to another website. Or like Patreon has cookies, which every website these days has cookies in it now. And, so maybe people didn't want to go to another website. So I was like, hey, maybe the membership option is a good way to get things going. And to be honest with you guys, even the small number of memberships that we have now is, let me look at my analytics here. Hold on. Let me pull my analytics up. Yeah, because let's see how many members we're at now. Honestly, my goal was to get to 100 members, and we're at 74, which is not great, but that means we're only 26 from 100, right? But if I go over to the analytics on, where is it? It's around here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Okay, so revenue. Where did the revenue thing go? I clicked on revenue. Oh, I have to go to that. Really? I have to go to this tab over here? Okay, that's stupid. So revenue has consistently gone down until, it's just consistently going down a little bit by little bit, but that's fine. But let me see, where is it? Channel memberships is 40%. Yeah, it's like 40% of total revenue. So it's pretty paramount that I'm like, oh, those memberships are kind of a big deal in the reality of things for me or anybody else. Like I'm not even saying that like, oh, only be a member to my channel. I'm saying that like if you are a member to somebody's channel, it's big. It's a big time thing. And of course, since I added the $100 membership level, I doubt anybody will ever click that. But we do have 3 producers on the Patreon page that are so generously at the $100 level. So it's not out of this world impossible. You never know. Maybe there's somebody out there that's doing super well, and they're like, hey, I throw around $100 bills because I'm a baller. You never know. 54 punchies. Well, they're pretty awesome aqua balls. I think you will love them. What were you asking? Thanks for the advice about the catfish. I put them in my 120. Somebody was asking about fish that eat algae earlier. Yes, there are some fish that eat algae, but I always put the caveat out there that if you are buying a fish to eat algae in your aquarium, I don't think that's the right reason to buy a fish, okay? If you look at it this way, you buy a fish because you want to get rid of algae, right? Because the fish is going to eat the algae. What happens when that fish is successful and has eaten all of the algae, right? Now that fish isn't going to have anything to eat. That's going to be a problem. Now you're going to have a fish that has no food and is going to starve to death, right? Or you get to the point where you're like, oh, well, I added these fish. Now that means that they're just going to eat the algae, so I can just kind of neglect my tank more. I'm not saying somebody specific, but I'm saying I've seen it. I've definitely seen that happen, and it's really easy to have that attitude of like, well, I added this thing that's going to take care of it for me. That's human nature, right? So I don't think it's a great way to go into it. Flagfish, American flagfish, they'll eat algae. Siamese algae eaters, they will, but you have to watch out and make sure you actually get the right one. Preston John says Caridina longistrosis. I always have problems saying that one. The short-nosed algae shrimp. Yeah. I mean, shrimps would be a good idea, like some Amano shrimp, that kind of stuff. But also at the same time, you if you're kind of buying something to take care of the algae for you, I would almost just reconsider like what your maintenance scheme is, because you can do so much more than like 10 amano shrimp, right? As a human, you can run through, clean a bunch of algae out in 20 minutes as compared to 10 amano shrimp that work frantically 24 hours a day all week. And they're still not going to be able to do a water change or adjust the CO2 or make sure you have the right amount of fertilizer in there. Like, they're not going to be able to do any of that kind of stuff, or change, either change out old light bulbs or make sure that your light is on for the appropriate amount of time and the appropriate amount of intensity. Like these lights right here in the 150, they're only running up to about, like, I think 90%, might be 80%, unsure. So, you could do so much more than a couple small fish, or like autosynclists. Like autosynclists specifically need some of the really soft algae. So they need some of that light green soft algae is the main thing that they're going to eat off of. But they also are going for little infusoria and things like that you can't really see. And if you're not like promoting the growth for that, like let's say you get 20 autosynclists because for whatever reason, the stupid fish stores will sell them for 99 cents a piece, or 3 for $2 or whatever. You bring those fish home, and you bring home like 12 of them, and you put them in a tank, and they're used to living in a school of 10,000 or 100,000. Now all of a sudden there's just a couple of them. They're confused, they're scared, and you don't have enough food for them because they start to eat some of the algae, and then you're not even promoting any algae. Then they just die off one by one, and you end up kind of just being the person who just bought some fish and slowly killed them. And that's depressing. That's a pretty depressing situation, and so it's not something that I would really promote personally. UG Aquatics says, how do I use my free super chats? If you're a premium YouTube premium member, like if you have a premium account, there's free super chats up until the 29th of November. UG Aquatics says, I'm on my phone. I think it's like what's that little symbol down there? It's either a $sign or the little arrow caret thing. Let me see. Hold on. Let me go to this live stream. That's me talking. Yeah, so on the bottom right of your phone, there's, like on the bottom left, there's a smiley emoticon, and then on the bottom right, there is a $sign, and you can click on that. Yeah. And if you have a premium account, you should get free super chats. So, yeah. It's just a shout out to remind people that if you have a premium account, to utilize that for somebody. No, I mean, it's not necessarily me. I mean, obviously, thank you if you want to give it to me. That's cool. But, give it to somebody because it's Google's money. So, maybe you guys go to Bob Steenfot's stream later, head over to that one, and maybe that's cool. Maybe that's cool. Big D Smoke says it asks for my bank account info every time. That has not been my experience, but I don't know. Oh, I scratched my arm. I got a bloody arm wound. That's weird. Hey guys, I'm live streaming so hard I'm bleeding. All right. GRB Aquatics says the flagfish are awesome, beautiful fish in their own right. Just a bonus, they eat hair algae really well. Yeah, I honestly, like when I go up to do work at the aquarium co-op, we have a bunch of flagfish in the Planet aquariums there, and every time I see them, I'm like, damn, those are such cool fish. I should definitely get some. then I always forget. I always just forget. I don't know why. Big D Smoke says, I can't do free super chats from my cell either, and I have a premium account. I don't know. Maybe you used them for something else. I don't know. Maybe you super chatted somebody else, or me, or who knows. Zen Ginger says, oh, I didn't know, and I wondered if it was my phone at first. Then I realized, weird. I don't know. It might be somebody's phone. I don't know. I know that there's always like weird stuff. But Fisheye on Tactics with $2 super chat, or instead of $1.99. So maybe that's the free ones. I don't know. We'll find out. The Zen Ginger has found the baby Olivia emojis. All right, so I think I'm kind of caught up with the chat. But Jim Smith figured it out. $2 super chat from Jim Smith. All right. Jay's Crazy Obsession just realized, is that a peanut emoji? That's right, it is. Hey, man, I made a bunch of emojis and stuff like that for the members. Whether you guys use them or not, I don't know. So everybody with a little emoji after their name in the chat, either it's a picture of me or an arrow, or I believe there's a fish, or there's one that's there's one that's a Snake Plissken from Metal Gear Solid. So everybody has that little thing hanging off of their name, their members. Because I don't think you guys have the green names in your chat. I don't think. Oh, Fish and Tank Ticks figured out my account password. Oh, I know how that goes. Where it's like HJK tilde pound sign uppercase O. Yeah, like I know how that goes. I know that life. But let's talk about the Ludwigia Senegalensis. This plant is a little bit confusing. It definitely had to pull out some of my notes to kind of think about a little bit of what to talk about it. It is, I guess people are still considering it fairly new. It's not that common. You won't see it that often. I had to find mine from a real specific guy in the area. I didn't order it, though, online, though I did see the Etsy page where I found some of these other plants. They had some there, so likely you could find that if you like. They aren't necessarily, they're not like an affiliate or anything. So, I mean, I'm not mad at like promoting them or anything, but I just am unsure if they either want promotion or not. I don't know. So I think if you just go Aquarium Plants Etsy, you'll probably find it. But the Ludwigia Senegalensis was initially thought that it was from Guinea, the Papua New Guinea, but it is not. It is actually from Africa. And coming from Africa, it's surprising how uncommon it is at this point, but it is kind of a big pain to get it to grow and to propagate. So I'm thinking that's probably the most likely reason for it not coming up very often. Allie Patton's asking, what's this one? That's a fish. That's a little killifish. But this is the plant right here that I'm replanting. You guys will notice that I took about 8 to 12 inches off of the tops, and I'm pulling out the rooted stems down here at the bottom, and that's all part of a propagation method. So all these rooted stems, I will take these, I will put a plant weight on them, and I'll put them in a healthy tank, that that will propagate new sprouts. So essentially the root ball and that little bit of stem that's left, probably 6 to 8 inches also. This thing will grow pretty tall if you let it go. Will actually sprout new plants. Then I can trim those roots off or trim the new sprout off and plant those as a propagation method. And then I can also see if it'll sprout one more time after that. But in my experience with the Senegalensis, it doesn't normally do anything the second time. Some easier varietals of Ludwigia will generally send out side shoot sprouts and stuff like that, even the second time. But I haven't experienced that yet with the Senegalensis, so I wouldn't want to promise that to you and see it have not happen, and then you'd be like, "Hey, man, I heard you say that that might happen," but it might. I'm certainly not guaranteeing it. But if you're talking about like Ludwigia repens, you can have just a little 2-piece chunk of that. Put a weight on it, drop it into a tank, and it'll probably sprout. Whereas the Senegalensis won't do that. It is a bit of a slow grower, even though it does, as you can see, it will grow tall. It just does it very slowly. Under minimal light, minimal fertilization, it will grow just this kind of lime green. But with a good amount of light, a good amount of fertilizer, and a good optimal-ish, this isn't the most optimal growing situation, but optimal-ish growing situation, grows this real red, kind of veiny texture to it. So it still has the green, but it has these really standout-ish red veining to it. So it is a pretty cool looking plant, that's for sure. But you definitely do have to have your patience with this one, because if you don't have your patience pants on, you might get a little grouchy as to how slowly this plant grows, how long it takes to get it really going, and that's life sometimes, though. We got to remember to have our patience, especially with plants that are especially adapting to new things. What do you think about Osmocote Plus root tabs? Osmocote Plus is a good fertilizer for your garden. It's not a good fertilizer for your fish tank. So that's what I think. Osmocote has a bunch of stuff in it that can be useful for some immersed grown setups that don't have fish and shrimp and stuff like that in them. But the Osmocote is not as heavily regulated or tested as most aquarium fertilizers, like what comes to mind here? Easy Green fertilizer is extensively tested. Thrive Plus is extensively tested. The Seachem, whatever the Seachem one is, I can't remember what it is now. There's 3 right there that are definitely extensively tested to make sure that there's no extra chemical or anything like that going into them. Most agricultural fertilizers like Osmocote, it doesn't have as strict testing and stuff like that, because if something hits the soil, typically like the erosion of water is probably going to carry off or dilute into the soil and not really cause that big of a problem. Whereas a agricultural fertilizer added to an aquarium could just spread something all throughout the aquarium and cause like a real serious problem. All right. I feel like I caught most of the stuff for today. Unfortunately, we are 90 whatever minutes. Where are we? 92 minutes in, and I have got to go pick up my daughter, Miss Olivia, from daycare. I got the text earlier that Vicky was not going to be able to make it, so we will have to kind of cut it short for the day. A-Rod Sell Homes is asking if I got your super chat. Yes, I got your super chat. Thank you for the 99-cent sticker super chat. Thanks, man. Jim Smith with a $2 super chat. Fisheye on Tactics, and I think there was only one other one. Preston John. Those are our super chatters for the day. Well, thank you very much. We hit that $7 mark, so it's not, hey, that's pretty good. But the big news of the day, we got 2 new members at the standard level. The Zen Ginger, thank you very much. And Allie Patton, thank you very much. That is very much appreciated. It is the one, I guess it's the one thing that YouTube appreciates now. You know what I'm saying? Like, just about the only thing that YouTube appreciates now is they really have, what do you call it? They put a paywall pretty much in anybody getting promoted on this platform anymore. So I appreciate it where you guys can come through or not. It's really, really awesome. We did get a new Patreon member, William. Thank you very much. And thank you, Fish Keeperist and Green Man, for coming through this last Friday. Yeah, so very much appreciate it. Everybody on Discord, I will see you throughout the week for sure. Hit the like button, the subscribe button, blah, 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 all that YouTube stuff that's just so wildly important, even though now it's just all about a paywall, right? So, kind of a drag, right? I will hopefully be back on Friday. If not, I'll see you later.